All right, let's dive into one of the biggest, most expensive races happening in tech right now, the fight for quantum supremacy. We're talking a multi-billion-dollar marathon with some of the biggest players on the planet. But what if a tiny challenger just changed the entire game?
So, just the other day, IBM, a true titan in the quantum space with something like 2,500 patents to their name, they pulled the curtain back on their latest quantum processor. And look, this wasn't just some minor update. This was a huge statement, basically them planting their flag and saying, we're going to win this. Okay, let's just quickly break down their game plan. By the end of this year, we get the Nighthawk processor. Think of its 120 qubits as the raw horsepower, and the 5,000 gates as the number of instructions it can handle in a single run. Then, by 2026, they're shooting for quantum advantage. That's the big moment where a quantum computer can officially do something no classical computer on Earth can. But, the real finish line? That's 2029. That's when we get fault-tolerant machines, the kind big companies can actually rely on. So the main thing to remember here is, even on their own timeline, that future, it's still a ways off.
But here's the thing. While everyone was watching the hardware giant make its move, a totally different kind of challenger was quietly stepping into the ring. And its story doesn't start with billions of dollars. Nope. It starts with a number that's, well, it's just kind of nuts.
Yep, $140. That's it. That was the grand total, the entire investment needed to build a software platform that can go head-to-head with the same kinds of problems these multi-million-dollar quantum machines are being designed to solve.
So how is that even possible, right? Well, the secret is something called quantum-inspired software. Now, this isn't a quantum computer. It's a bunch of insanely clever algorithms that run on the hardware you and I already have, our laptops, even our phones. What they do is they kind of borrow the cheat codes from quantum mechanics to solve really hard problems just way, way faster.
And that brings us to this challenger, a platform called Quantacore. Get this, it was built in just 9 months. It runs on pretty much any standard device, and it delivers a serious performance punch. We're talking a 4 to 16 times improvement over old-school methods. For example, it can chew through a complex medical scan in less than 90 seconds on a regular phone. That right there shows you the difference. You get results right now on stuff you already own versus waiting years for specialized hardware.
Okay, so this brings up the obvious question, the elephant in the room. IBM has over 2,500 patents. How on earth can a small software project even exist in this space without getting absolutely flattened by an army of lawyers?
Well, the answer comes down to what each of them is actually doing. IBM's whole thing is physical. It's all about building a brand new kind of machine with superconducting parts that have to be cryogenically frozen. The innovation is literally in the hardware. Quantacore, on the other hand, is all about the algorithm. It's just smarter code running on the same old chips we've been using for years.
And this is the key. A really deep dive into patent law shows this super critical distinction. Patents on a physical thing, the hardware, almost never cover a purely software way of doing something, even if you end up with a similar result. Think of it like this. IBM's huge patent library is like an enormous, deep moat protecting their physical castle. The special circuits, the crazy cooling systems. But that moat only protects the how, the physical construction. It doesn't, and can't, protect the mathematical what, the actual concepts that the software is just simulating. It leaves this massive open field for software to run free without ever stepping on their toes. So this separation between hardware and software creates this absolutely fascinating window of opportunity. And the crazy part is, it's IBM's own timeline that basically flings the door wide open for a software solution to just walk right in.
Take a look at this. We're calling it the quantum gap. Right now, today in 2025, companies in finance, medicine, logistics, they're screaming for this kind of computing power. They need it yesterday. But like we saw, the truly reliable, fault-tolerant hardware from the big guys won't be ready until 2029 at the earliest. That leaves this 4-year gap where demand is sky high, but the hardware just isn't there yet. So how does Quantacore actually fill that gap? Well, they came up with this clever metric, a computational depth score, to make a real apples-to-apples comparison. It's basically a way to measure the horsepower of the software in the same terms as the hardware's quantum gates. And as you can see right now, while IBM is aiming for 5,000 gates, Quantacore is already delivering the equivalent of over 3,300, and it's production ready today.
Their roadmap is basically set up to run alongside IBM and even outpace them, acting as the essential quantum bridge that businesses can use right now.
But there's another layer to this whole story, and honestly, it might be the most critical piece of the puzzle. This software isn't just about speed, it's also about defense. Defense against the very same technology that inspired it.
This is one of the scariest questions in all of cybersecurity. It's what people call the harvest now, decrypt later problem. Basically, bad actors are sucking up all our encrypted data as we speak, just hoarding it, knowing that in 5 or 10 years, a quantum computer will come along that can crack it all wide open. The two big boogeymen here are Shor's algorithm, which is built to shatter the encryption, protecting things like your online banking, and Grover's algorithm, which is just brutally good at cracking passwords. And this is where Quantacore's other purpose comes into play. It's built from the ground up with defenses against these exact quantum attacks. It uses next-gen encryption and these crazy long 512-bit keys to create a massive safety buffer. So it's not just a bridge to the quantum future, it's also a shield against it.
So what's the big picture here? What does this all mean? Well, it suggests the future of computing isn't going to be this black and white choice between classical and quantum. It's shaping up to be something way more interesting.
So let's just boil this all down. 1. The hardware race is absolutely a long-term, multi-billion-dollar marathon. 2. But in the meantime, some really clever, quantum-inspired software can give us a huge slice of that power right now, on the phones and laptops we already have. And 3, and this is crucial, this software is both a bridge to the quantum future and a shield from its biggest threats.
And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. We are all so focused on this race to build a completely new kind of machine. But what if the next great leap forward in computing isn't a new box at all? What if it's about a new way of thinking, about writing fundamentally smarter software for the billions of powerful little machines we're already carrying around in our pockets?